With everything going on lately, of course, everything is going digital. Everything is going online. Everything is video. And I'm getting a lot of requests for just basic info on what camera should I get, what kind of a home studio should I get to post YouTube videos, to do a vlog, to do, regular just updates that look better than iPhone. And what's funny is I'm going to recommend to most of you that you get an app for your iPhone and stick with that. And I'll go into more detail, but let's take a look at all the gear that I think could work for you that you might have already. You might have some of this gear, you might not. You may want to make an investment, you may not. But I'm going to show you the things that you can use without buying a ton of stuff, without really spending a lot of money. If you want to, that's great, and I have some recommendations for you, but you don't need to. So let's start off with something that's probably most common in most people's household, the DSLR. So these have now been around for a while, everyone knows, and most people even have a DSLR. This is an EOS 6D, a Canon 6D. I have a 7D back here. I have a 70D back here. I have several different ones. These are great for video. If you already have one of these, do not buy anything else. This is all you need. Amazing video, amazing photo quality, of course. Audio is not great, so you'll want to invest in audio. I'll show you some audio options later. But if you have a DSLR that shoots video, chances are it does pretty great on its own. Do not go buy anything unless you're a serious videographer and you really want to get into it more than just a weekly vlog update or something. So stick with your DSLR. Awesome option. I'm actually a Nikon guy. This is not my body. I like Nikon cameras, and starting with the D800 and the D600 series, Nikon really did a great job with video. They caught up to Canon. I think they did a better job once they released that. They're behind now. Anyway, that's all water under the bridge. Keep your DSLR. Great option. If you have a more basic DSLR as well, that will work perfectly fine. As long as it shoots video, as long as it shoots 1080 video, you're gonna be okay, because still most people don't even watch more than 1080, more than 4K. And if you're viewing like most people do on their phone, resolution doesn't really matter. If you're watching a 4K video on your phone, that's pointless. So just stick with whatever DSLR you have, as long as it shoots 1080. You want it to be clear. You don't want to have people that are watching it on full screen and it's really blurry and pixelated. That's bad, but stick with your DSLR. So the T3i is a good option. There's several, more budget-friendly DSLRs like the Canon D5000, I think it is, series and up. Great cameras. Now onto the mirrorless section. So this is kind of one of Sony's flagship mirrorless cameras. Now this is definitely a more expensive option, but fantastic camera. This has been used on large productions. One of my favorites, I love watching Planet Earth 2. This was used on Planet Earth 2. I have the R3. But a lot of people love the S2, the A7 S2, the A7 III, the A7 R3, A7 R4. They've got a lot of great cameras in the 7 series. I'd recommend any of them. They're fantastic. This one shoots 4K at 30 frames, so it doesn't do it's not a high frame rate on this body, but the image quality is absolutely fantastic. And for the money, now I think you can buy this for about $2,300 to $2,500. Originally it was about $3,300, but amazing mirrorless option. My next mirrorless suggestion is down to Sony's 6000 series. So anything like A6000, A6100, 62, 3, 4, 5, 6600. So this is the A6600 with the 35mm 1.8 wide aperture Sony autofocus lens. This setup is awesome. Now, this is definitely on the more expensive range of their crop sensor cameras. You'll notice it's a smaller body than the 7 series. It's very compact, but it's honestly, it feels good. Specifically with the A6600, they made a larger grip, so it just feels better. It doesn't feel kind of small and really compact and cheap. It feels like the A7R3. but it's just a smaller body, crop sensor, and it goes for about $1,200. Now you can get the cheaper, the older ones, which are still phenomenal cameras, for $500, $400. And then I'll go through some lens suggestions as well. But their crop sensor series is also amazing. I mean, Sony just has nailed it with every single one of their mirrorless cameras. They're phenomenal. So many options and choices and customizable buttons, big screen that comes up. This one, particularly why I got the 6600, is because of this screen that flips up so you can monitor yourself. If you have autofocus, it's not absolutely necessary, but this way you can frame it up and just make sure that you're in focus and your exposure is right. So amazing little combo here. The 35, this is an expensive lens. I would recommend getting the Sony 50mm 1.8, as well as if you shoot Nikon or Canon, sorry. Any of these companies make a 50mm lens that is so cheap, and it's the best lens for the money. The 50mm 1.8, I think the Nikon crop version is $120, same with the Canon. If you want the full frame version, it's probably like $220, but still, best lens for the money. I would highly recommend that 50mm 1.8. So, Sony mirrorless cameras are amazing. Like I said, you don't have to go for the most expensive one. You also don't need to buy it brand new. You can get a great combo set up, a camera body with a lens on eBay for probably like $300-400, and that will do really well than buying a new camera for twice or 3 times the price just because it's new. I'd recommend getting something on eBay. You'll support someone who may need some money right now, especially during these times. Some people might need some extra cash and need to sell their gear. Go on eBay and check it out. My next suggestion is the GoPro. I have the Hero 5 Black. This thing's 5 years old now or so. I don't remember. But man, I still use this thing and still love it. It shoots 4K, 30 frames, really wide angle. Not my favorite, but for stuff that I do, like out in the outdoors, camping, you know, rough weather, this thing is awesome. Or you're out on the boat. Amazing little tool, so compact, cheap. You can get these used for dirt cheap now. And I mean, it's rugged. I've dropped this thing. I've beaten the crap out of this thing. I think it's fallen out of the drone once. Amazing little camera for the price. You can definitely get away with doing a vlog on this. You'll want to make sure you watch your settings. There's a wide, there's a narrow, there's an ultra wide. There's several different modes for your lens focal length. But really, you can't go wrong. And if you already have one of these, again, don't worry about getting another camera. This is awesome. Lastly, my suggestion to most of you, probably 95% of you, your iPhone. Use your iPhone. What I use is an app called Filmic Pro. And what Filmic Pro does, they don't compress it the same way your iPhone camera app compresses the files. And it gives you complete manual control over the image. You can adjust exposure, you can adjust white balance, you can adjust your focus manually. So this is an amazing tool, and the files do get large, but you can record 4K, I think at 60 frames on this camera using the Filmic Pro app. And this, along with, you can get an attachment, a lapel mic on Amazon. I'll put some links below in the description, but you can get a lapel mic or a shotgun mic that attaches to your camera, and this thing is a phenomenal little setup. And you're not buying anything. The only thing you need to worry about is audio. You definitely want good audio for your videos. So let's talk about lenses for a moment. This is a Rokinon 35mm t1.5. You ask, what's t1.5 as opposed to f1.5? It's just the cinema scale of aperture. And this is actually a cinema lens, but Rokinon has an exact same lineup of autofocus photo lenses. They're the exact same lens, just not. This one's a manual focus only and manual aperture ring. They have a complete autofocus and auto aperture line for almost every camera manufacturer. So this is for a Sony mount. They have Canon mount, they have Nikon mount, they have Olympus mount, Fuji mount. Rokinon makes an excellent product for the price. I would check out their lenses for sure. But if you want to go the autofocus route, I would recommend getting a native autofocus lens to your camera. So if you have a Canon, get a Canon lens. If you have a Sony, get a Sony lens. because they just work well together. They're engineered to respond to each other and know how they work. So get a native lens and check on eBay. Again, check on eBay for a good deal on a nice lens. You can probably get the 50mm lens for really cheap. So let's talk about focal lengths. What focal length do you want? And what I mean by focal length is you're going to see 50mm 1.8 f AF, you know, whatever, G lens, Sony mount, Sony E mount. You're going to see a lot of numbers and a lot of letters. What you want to worry about is the 50mm and the 1.8 or the 2.8, and of course the mount. You want to make sure it fits your camera. But the focal length, so I tend to love the 35mm. I'm a wide angle guy. I love big picture, landscape. You see this whole room, that's how I like it. So I like to shoot with the 35, and it gives me good results without a whole lot of lens distortion around the edges. And my face is not really distorted in the picture. Like if you shoot really close, you'll notice the face is big and you only see a certain part of the face. So you want a longer focal length for portraits and for talking head stuff, just because it looks a lot better. That's also another reason to get the 50mm lens. Like I said, the cheapest, best lens for the money. The 50mm is fantastic, not only for the price, but because you get kind of a wide, you're right in between focal lengths. You're at a wide, between a wide and a telephoto. So you can do a lot. There were many years that I shot with only a 50mm video and photo, and it worked great. And I only spent $200. So 50mm is awesome. Now, if you like a closer shot, maybe like chest to head, then I would recommend the 85mm. This is another Rokinon manual focus cine lens. But every camera manufacturer, lens manufacturer makes an 85mm focal length. It's awesome. It's perfect for close-up portraiture. It's good for a lot of other things as well, but we're talking about vlogs and YouTube, etc. specifically. So the 85 is a great, really great lens to get. These will be a little bit more expensive than say your 35 and your 50 for sure. But really these are a great lens. And let me just mention on the subject of aperture. Now, some of you may not be familiar with what that even means, what it pertains to, how it affects your image. Aperture is the size of the opening inside the lens. There's a little kind of a spirally blade thing inside. That determines how much light is coming through the lens to hit your sensor. Of course, the more open, which is the lower number, the more open, the more light you're going to get, which is better for low light situations. But at the same time, it's a very narrow depth of field, meaning maybe just your nose is in focus and you meant to have your eyes in focus, and you just can't get it right, which is why an autofocus lens comes in handy. But just keep that in mind. It definitely gives you a really nice I'm in focus background autofocus effect. But at the same time, if you're doing just manual focus, it's tough to do. It's tough to master it. So that's why I would stick to autofocus lenses and something around a 2.8 if you're doing vlogs, YouTube content. Lighting is another subject. I can go into that in a different episode. But these are the cameras that I would recommend you look into. And again, try eBay. If you're going to spend some money, check out eBay first. You can get some amazing deals on a great camera. Don't settle for a brand new but cheaper model. Get something used that's a better model and a better camera. And I hope that's helpful. Please like and subscribe to my channel. It'll help me out a lot. Thanks for watching, and I will have more info for you in this series.